Welcome to the Let's Get Vulnerable podcast. It's your host, Dr. Morgan. Today is going to be a really special episode. I've never done an episode like this before, and I have a very special announcement for you. Are you ready for this? Oh my gosh, I have to tell you, I am officially engaged. I'm officially engaged. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to show you my ring. You can see it. Um I want to tell you the whole story. I want to tell you the entire story, not just the engagement story, but the story of my fiance and I and how our relationship unfolded. I've really held off on that because as I was building secure attachment and building this relationship so intentionally, just the way that I teach you all, as I was doing that, it felt better to me to keep it private. I really, I really needed to keep it private. And I just find a lot of joy out of keeping things that are just for me. I will never be one of those people on Instagram or on the internet where I'm showing you every single aspect of my relationship. And honestly, it's just not what feels right to me. So I'm going to continue to honor that. That being said, I think it's really important to share this story, and I've really intentionally thought about it. And I've decided I want to share this story with you all because I want to give you some hope. I want to tell you, hey, these are the things that I did, and this is what it looked like for me to build a secure, loving, healthy relationship despite having so much childhood trauma, so many failed relationships in the past. Like we're just going to get vulnerable. I'm going to tell you all of it, okay? Before we dive in, I want to make sure that you know I am going live on Instagram, and I've been trying to do this more. I just think it's such an incredible way to interact with you all. And it's happening on the 21st, so Tuesday, next Tuesday, May 21st at 5 o'clock Mountain Time. So that's 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern. It is a live on Instagram. And what I'm going to be doing is answering your questions. And I'm going to specifically go over anything that came up for you inside of doing the Move to Secure Attachment Challenge. I'll put the link in the show notes. If you haven't done this challenge, you need to do it. It is a 3-part challenge. Each day is a specific training, and there's a lot of experiential work. Like there's a lot of transformation that's happening inside that challenge. So I just thought to myself, you know what? I want to support all these people who are putting in this work, and I'm going to show up live. So mark it on your calendars. Okay. Tuesday, 4 o'clock Pacific time, 5 o'clock Mountain, 7 o'clock Eastern, Tuesday, the 21st, an Instagram live. So all you have to do is be on Instagram and you'll have access to it. I'm excited. I can't wait to see you there. And then maybe we can also celebrate my engagement together. You can show up on the live and we'll celebrate. I love it. Get to do that as a community. So I'll see you there. Mark your calendars. Let's get into this story. Okay. I have to go all the way back to 2011. Okay. 2011. I'm living in Missoula, Montana. I am working full time at DirecTV customer service. I am a customer service rep, handling people's billing issues. So, as you can imagine, I learned a lot about de escalating angry customers, learned a lot of great communication strategies there. Anyways, I'm working at DirecTV. I'm full-time student at the University of Montana, double majoring in psychology and Spanish. And your girl is still managing to party a bit, okay? So, not all the time. There was no way that I could do what most college students were doing, which is like going out all the time, like multiple nights a week. But I would still manage to go out like once a week, okay? And I was engaging in binge drinking like all college students. It's so normal, right? So I'm binge drinking occasionally, well, once a week. There's this night that I used to love. It was at this place called the Badlander in Missoula. And it was called Dead Hipster Night. And they would have dollar well drinks. So you could have a dollar vodka soda. And they would play like a lot of like EDM house, but like the latest and greatest hits. And then they would take photos of people in the crowd and they would put it up on a website. And I just remember the goal was like, okay, I want to look super hot and I'm going to have my $7 for my 7 well drinks. And then I'm going to hopefully get my photo up on the website. Like, this was a whole different era, okay? Whole different era for me. I just want to set the scene. And I, at this time, had such low self worth. Oh my gosh. I had horrible, horrible body image. I was in a place where um, I had believed that I wouldn't be worthy of a relationship until I lost weight. And I was honestly in a very bad mental place. Okay. Even though it didn't look like it, I looked like I had a 3.8 GPA. I was working full time, looking pretty successful on the outside. But I was in a really bad place, and I had actually gone on a restrictive diet where I ate the same thing every single day for an entire year. And I made sure it was under 1,200 calories, and I had lost 50 pounds. So I had gone from about almost 200 pounds down to like 149. Yeah, like it was between 145 to 150. And so what happened was, outside, I looked totally different. I looked confident. I probably, had people going like, I know they'd be like, oh my gosh, you look so good. But on the inside, I was still that girl with low self worth who just wanted someone to choose her. And I'd had all of these toxic relationships. I need to write another book where I just tell you guys all of the deets, okay, where I spill the tea on all the relationships, because it was not a good look during my college years. Anyways, I'm at this place, and um I was just waiting for anyone to choose me, to commit to me, to want to be in a relationship with me. And I made a lot of dumb choices. So that's the scene, okay? Now, here's what happened. I went to a house party, and it was Scott Campbell's house. I remember Scott Campbell because he was convinced that he looked like Tom Cruise, and he would mention this as soon as you met him. He'd be like, "Hey, I'm Scott Campbell. Don't I look like Tom Cruise?" And you'd be like, "What?" Anyways, nice guy, just a little interesting. But I was at his house and I'm playing beer pong, and I met somebody, and his name is Robert. So 2011, and we're playing beer pong as you do. I always hated beer pong. I don't know if any of you liked it. I hated it. But we met, and I remember because there was this other guy who had kind of had a crush on me, and I was like chatting with him. But I met Robert, and he was so funny and just real. And I could even just tell from the moment I met him, like, this is a kind person. And I ended up giving him my number. So I gave him my phone number. And back in the day, you guys, there was no Instagram. Was there Instagram? I don't think there was at that point. And it was like literally I had a flip phone. I think I had a Razor, I don't remember, but it was not an iPhone. And I gave him my number, and it was like, okay, he could either call me or not. There's no, I'm going to go find your Instagram profile and send you a message. It was just, he has my number. He'll either text me or not. And he texted me, and we started hanging out. And our version of hanging out was like the most fun thing ever. We would, this is this is so funny to share. We would get like a ton of wine. So there's a lot of alcohol for both of us. Both of us at that time were drinking a lot. I have to be totally honest. Like that is what we did, right? And we would get a ton of wine, and I would be doing like my homework, or I also worked the crisis line at that time. So I was taking calls for the crisis line. And I have vivid memories of being at his little apartment in Missoula over by the good food store. And I would be taking calls for the crisis line, and he would make me dinner. Back then, he would make pasta. He would make pasta or something crazy good. And here I am in college, like basically microwaving my meals. And I have this guy who's cooking me dinner. And I just remember he was always so curious and such a good listener. And he would ask me about how was my classes going, how is my work going. He was always attentive and kind. And once again, lots of wine. Okay. I have memories of, we like, it's like middle of winter, Montana. We're dating, and we ran out of wine, and it's like 1:45 in the morning, and we're like sprinting through a field of snow, getting to the gas station to go buy one of those like barefoot bottles of wine, as big as we could get, and then running back to his place. Like, we just had so much fun. And yes, there was a lot of alcohol, but there was also a lot of like honest conversations. And I think we really did see each other for who we were. Okay. So 6 months of this, 6 months of this. And to be absolutely honest with you all, this was not a healthy relationship at that time. And both of us were very emotionally unavailable. I remember there would be like a week where I wouldn't hear from him, or like then I would do the same thing to him where I just wouldn't respond. I mean, this was not a consistent, stable, healthy relationship by any means. It was a ton of fun at that time in my life. I was, gosh, how old was I when we met? I was like 21, 22, 21, 22. So, anyways, it was a lot of fun. 6 months go by. We have this whirlwind romance. I should add as well. Um, there was a wonderful physical connection. I don't want to go into too much detail, but it was always a wonderful physical connection. We had so much fun. I remember feeling like I could be myself. Like I could be my whole self with him, which included I could show up and be like my sexual self. And he might kill me for sharing this. I don't know. I hope he doesn't listen to this episode. He might. Who knows? But I remember one time I like showed up at his place in a trench coat, and I had never done something like that. But in a trench coat, nothing underneath. Like we had so much fun, you all. Okay. And yeah, so it's 6 months of this. And then I can't remember exactly what happened. It was a blurry time. But I think I had wanted to see him and he was unavailable. And the real truth is he was struggling with his relationship to alcohol. And he was drinking a lot and he was drinking during the day. So he was really spiraling at that time and he was pretty unavailable. And I think it was me who said, I don't know if this is working. But what I remember was we had a very loving, mutual conversation where it was like, this just isn't working. And then I was going to go study abroad in Spain and I wanted to be single during that time anyways. I didn't prioritize having the commitment. So I was like, this isn't working. You're not available. There's no way I'm going to stay in a relationship with you while I go to Spain, right? Like it was a lot of that. And then he he was really sad. Like I can picture him. I can still see him in his flannel shirt, jeans. He had these leather boots that he still owns. Fun fact, he still has a shirt that we have one picture of us during that time, and he still has that shirt. Of course, ladies, you know what I'm talking about. Men keep their clothes forever. But I can see him as we're having that conversation, and he had genuine sadness in his eyes. And he said to me, I would be the albatross around your neck if we stay together. He was an English major, so he was very, I don't know, poetic. He was very poetic in his speech. And I genuinely was sad and he was sad. And it was so funny. I remember having this like weird gut feeling of, I feel like I could have married that guy. Like I had that feeling. And then we didn't talk. It was at least a year went by. And then he did something that is so rare that I'm going to share with you all. He continued to check on me, and not in like a, oh, your ex is coming back kind of way, because we all know what that feels like, but in a genuine, I care about you, human to human. I hope you're doing well. I've thought of you, right? And he would check up on me probably once a year, like every single year for 10 years. Okay. So I'm sure you all are like, how the heck did they get back together? Well, I'll tell you. So he would check up on me. And I remember there being seasons where he would call me or text me, and I would just say back, I'm busy, like very avoidant, like, I don't have time for this. I'm focused on my career. Don't message me. I vividly remember one time he called me when I was driving downtown San Diego, and I was single at this time, but he called and he wanted to catch up. And I vividly remember being like, hey, I am really busy in my career. I was so rude. I was like, I'm just super busy. I hope you're well. Take good care of yourself. Like I kept it under a 2-minute conversation. Basically like, why the heck are you calling me? And this man, he called me again the next year. And what ended up happening is it was 2020. You all know what was happening in 2020. I had moved to outside of Great Falls, Montana, Ulm, Montana, in my aunt's basement where I grew up. It's where I went to high school. So I was in my childhood bedroom, and I'm living there. And then I think it was February of 21. So it's February of 21 where he had reached out, and I responded and I said, hey, hello. I don't know if it's because I was finally slowed down enough. I know that was part of it. And then the other part of it was I had done a ton of healing work. I had really worked on, okay, how do I heal my disorganized attachment style? How do I get to a regulated nervous system place? I was in the thick of doing all of that healing for myself. So then I was able to respond really differently when I heard from him. And what ended up happening is we texted just a little bit and then we had a phone call. And our phone call lasted about 2 hours. And we just shared where we were in our lives and what we were doing. And I told him that I had a podcast. I remember telling him, and he was like, that's so cool. And he was taking notes on everything. He's very attentive. So everything I was sharing with him, he took notes. And then eventually we just, we kept chatting. We would text consistently. He's an incredible communicator. He had done a ton of work on himself, including repairing his relationship to alcohol, which was really important. And then he had a stable job and a Jeep and had bought a home, and he just had a lot more stability in his life. Um, and I could go into more detail there, but I won't. So this is so different for me to share this part of my life. I hope this is helpful because I'm gonna share some examples of you all with you all of where I could have sabotaged it and then I didn't. Thank goodness. Okay. So anyways, we are chatting consistently. It's very, very good. And then he invited me to come to Florida. And I'm in Montana, and I was already doing some travel because I was in some business networking stuff. I was going to Austin for my good friend Mariah, her 30th birthday. So I have all this travel going on. And I'm like, it's still kind of cold in Montana. Florida doesn't sound all that bad. I do like this guy. So I'm going to consider it. And I will tell you what I did. I had a very open and honest conversation with him. And I said, look, I am not going to invest time to come visit you unless you are open to this becoming a serious relationship. I'm not going to go to Florida for a hookup. Okay. If I wanted that, I could go somewhere a lot closer. And I was just really honest about where I was in my life. I want to build a serious relationship. Is that something you're open to? And I remember my heart pounding as I'm having that conversation with him. And he thought about it and he said, yes, I really like you. I'm very open to this becoming a serious relationship. So I went to Florida. And so this was the first time we'd seen each other in like 11 years. And when I got off the plane, I remember I flew in and I was so sick because I was so nervous. And I had to, like, as soon as I got off the plane, I had to like go to the bathroom and I thought I was going to puke. Um, But as soon as I saw him in the airport, it was like slow motion. I wish I had a recording of it because we were like walking from opposite ends of the airport. Somehow there's no one else in the airport. I have no idea why. And we're like walking slowly. And then as soon as we get to each other, we just made out. Okay. We made out. And I know some of you were like, Dr. Morgan, what about taking it slow? Well, I will get to that. Okay. I will get to that. So we made out, and then from there it was just like a magical, I think I spent 5, 6 days there, and we just had, once again, we had so much fun, this time without the binge drinking. Okay. And we just got along. It was just easy. It was just so, so easy. And we fell in love. The first time we were together, we weren't really in love. Neither one of us had the ability. I know that we wanted to be, we really liked each other, but we didn't have the capacity to truly, truly fall in love. And then this time as adults, we were able to create the opportunity for that to happen because of who we both became. So we fell in love. We went to Sanibel. I remember going to Sanibel Island. We had the best time there. And I cried when I left and I flew home to Montana. And this man, he was so good at being consistent in his communication. So you know how it is when so that was a big investment, right? It was an emotional investment, time, money. I invested in coming to Florida. And what happens is after that kind of investment, it's so normal to spiral. And I remember, I've done so much work, but I remember having some anxious attachment thoughts of like, oh, is this really going to work? Did I just waste my time? Da da da. But then I got home and he was so consistent, so consistent. I think by that time, we were having at least a 10-minute phone call every night. Like we were just checking in. We had awesome communication. And then, so I gotta tell y'all, this is the tea. This is where it gets juicy. Okay. This man, he was supposed to come visit me. And I had a place booked and it was in Bozeman and he was supposed to fly out. And what happened was, it's kind of a long story, but you guys know the COVID restrictions, right? There was a lot going on about like travel, and he was supposed to get a vaccine and then get like an updated vaccine, and then he couldn't. And at that time, there was a lot of people that were like, oh, you have to have a vaccine. So basically, long story short, he was really anxious about flying with COVID and the fact that he hadn't gotten his booster and he wasn't able to come. And I think he canceled it. I want to say it was like 4 days before he was supposed to come. And let me tell you, I had so much of my disorganized attachment come up where I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm being abandoned. Well, F him. And I was it was not good. I was spiraling. And I remember being on this call with him. And after doing so much work, after having, learning how to regulate my emotions, and I remember being on the call and being like, I am so sad that you're not coming. That was the vulnerable thing for me to do. Me in the past, like the disorganized attachment version of me, I would have just said, like, well, forget you, forget this. I can't believe I came to Florida and now you're not coming to Montana. And I would have just ended it. I would have ended it. But to be able to work through that, and I remember I had a FaceTime with him, and he legit had tears coming down his face. And he was sharing how disappointed he was because he had wanted to come and he was so apologetic. And I just remember going, okay, okay. And I was obviously so vulnerable and sharing how disappointed I was. Cool girl Morgan really wanted to come back and just be like, well, F you, right? But we were both vulnerable. We both cried on the call. And then we came up with a plan for when he was going to visit. And he did come. Okay. So I just wanted to share that example. There's a ton of moments like that where I had a corrective experience where I decided to show up as the securely attached version of me, my highest and best self. And because of that, we've been able to build an incredible relationship. Incredible. Um, I want to acknowledge this episode is already 30 minutes long. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to break this up into parts. So I've told you the beginning, okay? I've told you how we met, how we started dating. I'm going to finish with telling you a little bit more, and then I'm going to do a part two. I'm going to give you the whole engagement story in a part two, and that is going to drop on Friday. Okay. So get ready. It's going to be fun. I'm going to tell you all the things, and I'm going to be honest and real. I'll tell you the real truth about what was it like for me to get engaged as someone who has experienced a lot of past relational trauma. And I'm going to give you all the juicy details that I haven't even shared before. You are not going to want to miss it. So that'll be on Friday. But for now, telling you about my relationship with Robert, I want you all to know this. This is a man who has, from day one, been really, really honest and open and loving and kind. And he has been able to work with me to create such a healthy, stable, emotionally safe relationship, and emotionally safe for both of us. We both acknowledge that we've never been in this kind of relationship where we are our full selves. There's no judgment. We are seriously our biggest supports for each other. We cheer each other on. We support each other. We check in. He is my best friend. Absolutely. We laugh all the time. We giggle. We laugh. We do just silly things all the time. We go on adventures together. We plan our future. We have a vision for our relationship. I mean, I feel like I'm gonna cry, but it's just, I never thought that I would have this kind of relationship. And I didn't really see a lot of models for it. So just to be able to be at this place, I mean, it's the best thing I've ever done in my life, honestly. And I could go on and on and on. Long story short, let's tell you a little bit about how I ended up in Montana. So, as you remember, I went to visit him in Florida. I was living in Montana. We made long distance work for about 8 months. Okay? And then both of us knew at that point, we went, okay, if we agreed, if we want to have a serious relationship, the long distance arrangement is not going to work. And we intentionally thought about it. And since I can work from anywhere, and there are definitely a lot of things that I love about Florida, and I was, I'd been living at home with my aunt and I didn't have a place yet. It just made the most sense for me to go to Florida. So he flew in, we loaded up a U-Haul, and we drove across the country. And I have stories about that. One of them was that I had a complete anxious attachment spiral where I ended up going through his phone because I just was so anxiously attached, and I had this whole thing of like, oh my gosh, I think he must have another woman. So I like went through his phone, and then we had to have a repair conversation. I think we were in freaking South Dakota in a hotel, and we had to have a repair conversation. And I had to take ownership, and I had to acknowledge what was coming up for me and be vulnerable. And you all know what that was like. It's like, I have my two dogs, I have a U-Haul with my stuff. We are on the way to Florida, and then we're having to have this conversation. And thank goodness I know what I know about attachment theory, and I've done a lot of healing work because I was able to recognize, of course, this is coming up because there's so much investment that's happening, right? Emotional investment, time, energy, etc. The deeper you invest, the more likely some of those old ways of thinking are going to come up. And of course, I was tired, exhausted, cranky. None of that helps either. But I remember we had a wonderful repair conversation. And this is a good reminder: secure is not perfect. It just knows how to repair. When we're securely attached, we can repair more quickly. And of course, we want to spend more time in our securely attached place. But I think it's just really important to realize you're never perfect. You're never perfect. So I go to Florida. I end up living there in his house with him for a year. And what happened for me was this. I realized I did not want to be in the area that he was living. And I had not been able to see it clearly until I was actually staying there. And I can just tell you, it was not my vibe. Okay. Not my vibe. It was very residential and just, how do you explain like residential Florida? Um, it's just not my vibe. I don't want to be mean. Okay. I was like, get me out of the swamp hellhole. Um, no, it wasn't that bad. But the real reason, like the real thing that happened for me is I realized, oh my God, I need to be close to my family. I need to be close to my family. And I am the literal furthest point away from Montana that I could be. And no one is getting any younger. I mean, it really hit me to the point where I was like crying multiple times a week because I missed my family. It wasn't working. And here's the truth. When I started to realize, okay, this isn't working for me, I need to be back in Montana. I went to Robert and I was very, very honest. And I remember having the conversation saying, look, I love you so much because I did, and I do. I love you so much that if you told me you would be happier in Montana, or sorry, in Florida, if you told me you'd be happier in Florida, then I would support you in staying here and we would break up because I need to be in Montana. So it was that was when I knew that I was really healing and really becoming securely attached because I had so much love for him that I wanted him to be happy and that I could accept if it didn't involve me and if he needed to stay in Florida, if that was a big part of his happiness, I wanted him to do that. And of course, he was able to think about it. He really did. He thought about it. We had a trip. We went out to Whitefish area for a wedding. We had a trip out to Montana. And he really thought about it and he decided that he was ready to move. And it was at that point that I went, okay, yep, I think it was a year and a half into our relationship. This is a serious relationship. And we moved to Montana and built a house. I essentially built and designed a beautiful home, and it's my dream home on 5 acres. And he came with me. And I think to myself, geez, Morgan, what were you going to do if it was just you? You would have been in this house all by yourself in the middle of nowhere. Like, I think I was in my own way creating the space. I believe in that. We have to create the space for what we want. And the house that I built is a house for family. It's not a house for single Morgan. I can tell you this. If he had said, I love you so much and I need to stay in Florida, I guarantee you I would have either had to sell this house or rent it out because this place is a place for family. It's a place for family. So he came with me. We fell deeper in love and we got engaged. And I'm going to tell you that whole story on part number 2, dropping on Friday. But I'm so, so happy to be at this place in my life, in my fiance era. And one of the things I'm so proud of myself about, and I will talk about this on Friday more, I'm so proud that we never rushed it. We never put this pressure on. And I had done this in every other relationship where it was like, there better be a ring on it within a year and a half. Like I had these timelines, pressure, etc. And I didn't do that this time. I did not do that because I was able to show up in a secure way. And then we were able to let so many things unfold that needed to unfold, like finding our place we want to live. And we're both crazy happy here now. Like, he loves Montana. We had to find that. He had to find his career path. He's going full in on being a fly fishing guide, and that's his career path. Like, there was a lot that had to unfold. And if I had rushed oh, there better be a ring on my finger, I don't know if it would have happened. And getting to a secure place allowed me to let it be the way it needed to be. So tune in on Friday. I'll tell you the whole engagement story, and I'm going to be really honest about all the feelings that came up. And maybe some of you can relate to these feelings if you've ever been engaged or you've thought about it. I think this will be a really helpful episode. So see you on Friday for a bonus episode. And I just want you to know, no matter where you are in your healing journey, just know that it's so available to you. Like, finding your person, you never know where they're going to come from. I would have never in a million years guessed that I would end up with the guy I dated for 6 months in 2011. I would have never guessed it, ever. I mean, I had met so many other people on dating apps. I'd had some other pretty good relationships, people I met in San Diego. Like, I would have never, ever, 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 ever guessed. And I would have never guessed it would have been somebody like him, because he just wouldn't be quote unquote my type. But I will tell you something. I was dating my pattern. I was dating my unfinished business for so long that it didn't even let me see what I truly, truly needed. And Robert is that person for me. He's what I really need. He's my rock. He's loving and kind and such an incredible partner. And yes, I'm very attracted to him in so many ways. And I just it would have never happened if I hadn't done work on myself. So no matter where you are right now, just know that you doing the work on yourself, focusing on getting to a place where you have high self-worth, you're confident, you can show up emotionally regulated with secure attachment. Like, all of that is the building blocks for the kind of relationship you want to create. And if it's available to me, those of you who know my story, like, I've been through so much relational trauma. If it's available to me, it is so available to you. I don't care how old you are. I don't care what you've been through. It is so available to you. Okay. And this month, gosh, we are having just the best offer inside of the program. So if this inspired you today, then, like, what are you doing? Get inside of the program. Do this work. You can't do it alone. You can try. It's just not going to go very well. And you're probably going to get discouraged. You might even give up. You'll just be like, okay, I'll just be the fun aunt, or I'll just have a lot of dogs and travel the world. That was like my backup plan. Like, I'm just going to have a bunch of dogs, travel the world. I'll be the cool aunt. But here's the thing. I know deep down that you want to build your own little family. You want to build your own relationship, right? And when I say family, I don't necessarily mean human children. That can also include four-legged kids, cats and dogs. But you want to build your own little family unit and find your person. I know you want that. So do the work. Just do the work. Don't put it off. You can use the link in the show notes to apply to the program. Once again, we have such incredible offers for May. We are celebrating all moms, all helping professionals. I see you. I am you. I know how much you give to others. Okay. I know that you're so hardwired to show up for everyone else. It's time to show up for you. It's time to do the work to become the securely attached, confident, high self-worth version of you who can easily attract the relationship she deserves. Okay. It's time. And I have really special discounts for you when you join, just to honor our helping professionals, teachers, doctors, nurses, lawyers, anybody who's helping people, we have a really, really special offer for you, including moms, because obviously moms, you give so much as well. So don't wait. The link is in the show notes. You fill out an application and you book a time to speak with our team, and they'll answer any questions you have about the program and make sure it's a good fit for you. So don't wait. The link is in the bio. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. This was way more vulnerable than I thought I would be. I went like super deep and detailed, but just a little bit about my journey. And then Friday, I'm going to give you the whole story. All right. I'm sending you so much love. You are so worthy. Love you so much. And of course, I'm wishing you high self-worth and great relationships.